Dark Wolf moved to gaming VR. You were unsuppressed.
Hey, idiot. We're in a different room. Get in here.
VR by Dark Wolf.
Yes.
You were suppressed. You were moved to AFK by Dark Wolf. Dark Wolf entered channel.
Into my channel and told him.
Oh, good.
Like, where is it?
Not gonna happen.
Hey, I have a Mumble server too.
What's a Mumble? Mine's hosted on the computer right next to me.
It's like TeamSpeak but better.
Yeah, TeamSpeak.
Yeah, TeamSpeak but better.
I don't know. I feel like Discord is pretty amazing.
I wish I could pick this stuff up and play with it.
I see him walking towards the classroom.
You like to play
That
with
would be great to be able to pick.
I didn't realize.
Oh,
I like to play with
Right.
everything.
What's-
You know this.
What's this
I
button
play with
do?
everything. You know this.
Oh my
Apparently, I scare Bill. Apparently.
Like
He's probably justified.
yeah,
He most likely is.
No problem,
I told
thank
him I
you.
wouldn't mess with VR though, because I won't. Like he's safe.
Hey, Ghoster.
I like VR.
All right,
I only mess
so-
with things I don't like.
Father
Do you want to play
Yeah.
a game or just
Wow.
get started?
We better do the game.
All right.
Yes.
All right, so everyone take a seat, and we're going to need 3 volunteers who are on the Slack channel to come up as possible bots. We're going to do that Turing game if you were here like a few weeks ago.
Who
I would
wants to
volunteer, but
play?
I'll probably go to bed soon. I don't know.
Well, then, hey, you better play before you miss out.
This could be your last chance.
Yeah.
I'm working in Unity. I'm skipping.
Oh, okay.
I'll be the first to raise my hand.
I mean, I am the only schoolgirl. I am the
Thank
only
you. Come
schoolgirl
up
in the
here.
room, so you know what?
Come
Screw
up,
it.
yeah,
I am the only
yeah.
schoolgirl.
Get up
here.
here.
Yes, get up here. All right, who else? One more person.
Okay, what am I doing?
Really?
I
All
dropped my
right,
shit now.
excellent. Okay, so
Oh god.
let me get a
Tracking
hold of you
for you.
guys on the Slack chat, and I'm going to tell you what your role is. So,
Oh goodness.
I gotta get over Slack.
so
Okay, yeah, I gotta.
basically, you guys are going to be playing against the audience. So the audience is going to try to guess who of you is the bot and who of you is the robot, who's human and who's a bot. One of you is going to be
I think
a
this
bot.
is an easy
Two of you
robot.
are going to be human, but you're going to try to pretend to be the other one. So if
I
you
can just bring
get
Alexa
assigned
in
the role
here.
of human, you're going to try to pretend to be the bot. If you're the bot, you've got to say everything that the bot says when you type the question into the bot chat box.
Wait,
She lost me.
I can't type and be in VR chat at the same time.
Here.
I can on my
Nomono, can you explain it?
Yeah, I literally just put the phone on my knee.
I don't have my phone. Yeah, I'm phoned up.
Oh, you don't have access to the Slack
phoned up
channel
as
or
well.
anything?
Oh,
Yeah, I do on my desktop.
The beer's all
Yeah, that's what you're going to need. You're
I'm on
going to
Slack
need to be
in
able
case
to at
you
least
need
check something on your desktop, but it'll be quick.
okay.
Okay, so wait, I'll explain it why Poplopo is getting in touch with you guys. So basically, she's going to send one of you guys a link to a chat bot, and the other 2 people, she's just going to confirm that you're a human. And then the classroom is allowed to elect someone to ask a question, and they pose that question to all 3 of you, like, do you believe in the afterlife?
Oh, and I
Okay?
respond. One of us responds like the chat bot.
The
Yeah.
person who has the chat bot.
Oh.
Yeah, so the chatbot person types that question into the chatbot, and that's their whatever the chatbot says. That's their response. But the other 2 people just type in your response in a short statement, so that you know just so everyone's typing something or at least faking it, so we can't tell who's actually doing it. Does that make sense?
Hey, come join the game.
Somebody else would
So
probably
wait,
be better
so-
at this because my computer is like hard to get to and
They're
like.
explaining it
so
right now.
would mess with me to try. I have no tracking where my computer is, so I have to
Wait,
like
but,
leave, go do something on the computer, then come back over and over again.
Okay.
What you're saying
was
is
there
whoever-
anybody that played it last time? We did
whoever's
a
the
round a
bot.
few weeks ago.
I'll ask in a minute.
You're pointing
JT's
at
being
who's
pointed
that?
out. JT's being pointed out.
I don't remember.
Me?
I don't know. I didn't play it. I was gone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Also,
Kane-
Nomono,
Kane-
I don't
Kane
know
was
how to
a
play
pirate.
anymore.
I was a
That's
pirate. You mean the Napster
Suzuki.
flag? That was
Let me
up.
find it.
Yeah. Or Cleverbot is also a good one.
I need to go to bed.
Oh, we can try
Cleverbot
Cleverbot.
gets really obvious at
Last
times.
Last night was a bad idea.
Kitten, you wanna mute your mic when you're not talking? There's a lot of fan noises coming off of it. Thank you.
Oh, that sounded as though it was such a disappointing.
I know, I feel bad.
Oh.
got 3 buttons. We don't need 3 buttons.
What's wrong with buttons? Got a button.
They complicate
buttons.
the issue.
Hating buttons, man.
Whoa.
All right. Well, Psych, can you be the third person? Sure. You're it. All right, come up, get up here.
Welcome, come, get in, man.
Welcome. Oh,
Okay.
since we're not talking about much right now, basically one person's going to be bot. They're going to respond with whatever the bot says, and the other people are going to say whatever the hell they want. Correct?
Yes, but the game is this. Yeah. So the audience is going to try and guess which one of you is the bot, and you're all on a team. So the 2 people who aren't bots, they're going to try and answer in a way that does not confirm what it, like. You're not trying. You're trying to lead us on. You're not trying to lead
against
on.
the audience.
So the people that are humans are trying to act like they're robots, and the people who are robots are trying to not act like robots.
They're just copying.
Well, you're trying to all act as if you're just completely normal and the same, and we can't tell the difference between you. But one of you has to do the chatbot response. So the other 2 better play along in some way.
Make us think you're all chatbots. Make it so we can't figure out who's the chatbot and who's not.
This sounds
awesome. If the chatbot sounds too human, then that might be the tip-off that they're the chatbot.
Well, that's the thing.
So
Do we? Is it?
Well, that's the
We
strategy.
can't know. Yeah.
So this is a Turing test, basically.
We'll
figure out as she goes along.
Like a reverse Turing test.
God, this is an
Sending out the
actual
link.
Turing test.
Hold on, I'm pulling up a.
So while she sends the link out, the classroom needs to nominate someone to ask a question, or if there's a question they can all agree on. So do you guys want to? How do you guys want to decide what the question is? You're all one big team,
I actually
basically.
got a simple one this time. That's not going to be vague.
Well, pitch it to the class.
Should we just ask them what they had for dinner? Should be simple enough.
Maybe. I'm not sure what. Well, that's one.
Wait, what chatbot are we using, by the way?
I think Poplopo sending out the link to Masuku.
Yeah, Mitsuku.
What is the molecular weight of
Mitsuku.
titanium? The chatbot will only be the only one to get it right.
Maybe.
Chatbot will get it wrong. What are you kidding?
Come on,
Chatbot always gets it
join
wrong.
us. We're playing a game.
Oh, okay, there's Misaku.
Go ahead and take a seat. The people up here are competing against the audience. Yeah, sort of competing. They're in opposition to the audience.
Do they have their links? Are they confirmed?
Yes, they all have their information. So what you guys are going to do is the bot is going to type the answer to me that the bot says. The humans are going to type the answer to me that they say. So everyone's going to be typing, so you won't know which one is the bot.
All right, should we just go with Clem's question about bot? You can just type it anywhere so you have a written response that you can read back later.
Yeah, but preferably to me. So
I figure we
Send it
just
to
yeah,
Poplopo.
respond to Poplopo.
yeah, because I'm right there.
Okay.
On your Slack
All right.
chat.
Hold on. I have to get. Yeah. I'll
Friendly
respond.
neighborhood bug.
Okay.
Hold on. I'm going. Jesus. Where did my Slack go?
And then Rejinx is gonna hum a song for us.
Did you
That's
ever-
the only
I don't
song
think
we
you
ever
ever
use.
Oh my
Oh, hey,
god.
shit.
Here, I'm gonna do my background music. What was it? It was good.
Well, Oracle had like his song. If he's that other avatar, or is that built into the level?
That
Yes,
was built
Poplopo,
into
did
the
you see? I think I responded to in the Slack
There you go.
direct message.
All right, wait. It sounds like they're all good.
Sorry. Yep. No, they are not all ready. So hang on one second.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a Rick back there. That's great.
Yeah, he lost his Morty.
Oh, we need to get him
Doesn't he have a
ready.
coupon for a free one?
His intellect is unshielded.
That's
But if
okay.
he's-
in college,
If
I
he's
made
the
friends
original
with the
Rick,
kid
you know,
from
the one we
Russia
all know and
the
love,
kid
he
from
has a coupon
Taiwan.
for a free one.
They were really great pool table players.
That's too quiet, Poplopo. Oh, Poplopo, turn your sound up. You're always so quiet.
Oh
And they
man.
broke
Well, it only
my
goes up
bank
so
with
much.
poker.
Let's see.
Go to maximum.
Turn it up more.
It's a
Crank it.
maximum. There's only so much I can do after that.
Go to 11.
Turn it up more past max.
I don't feel. I'm sorry.
Turn
I
it
don't
up
feel
to
right as a
11 and
schoolgirl.
rip
I
the
gotta fix
knob
it.
off.
Oh, okay.
All right, so I think, are they ready now?
Anything fancy or
let's
just
see.
cheap?
If you're not ready, raise your hand or say something. You guys are ready?
I'm ready.
I did the thing.
Are you guys ready?
Okay. All right, let's start over here. So what'd you have for
Yes,
dinner?
sir.
Kanoa. Or how do you say your name?
It's Kona, but skip me for just a second, if you don't mind.
Oh, God damn it. All right, Psych. What'd you have for dinner?
Okay. I had
One of them's
for dinner. I had
one of them's
some steak,
clever bot. The other two
onion
have pretend to
rings,
be bots. One of them
chips,
is clever
and
bot. And the other two have
peas.
to pretend to be bots.
Okay.
What was your last
We
thing?
had to ask
Peas?
questions.
Peas.
One of these things
Okay,
is
so
not
you
like
have
the other.
You know, like the
little bit of
Mexican. Yeah,
vegetable.
like yeah.
I'll snow peas.
All right, Double Goose, what'd you have for dinner?
Pizza rolls.
Did you bother microwaving them, or?
I believe that.
Yeah,
That's
I
another
microwave them.
That's another
Oh,
question. No
sorry,
more
sorry.
questions. Yeah, just answer the one question.
Can I?
I think he just eats them raw and frozen.
Are we counting drinks in too, since he did?
That's up to your soul.
All right. Well, I had
Why would you
pizza and
choose
apple
that?
cider.
All right, so pizza, apple cider, pizza rolls, and then like steak and
One
onion
man of
rings and
class.
peas and something.
That's pretty.
Very decent.
I'm trying to have a
So,
balanced diet.
Is the classroom ready? Like, could you guys come to a consensus to elect the bot, or should we ask another question?
I can elect the not
People are
bot.
pointing at
Another one?
Psych, or
I think it's
what do you got,
Kona.
Rejinx?
No,
Oh, I know
that's not
absolutely. I
Kona.
know for sure who is definitely not a robot.
Kona drinks apple cider all the time.
Yeah.
You suck at lying. You can't lie to me.
One's
I've learned something new.
one's eliminated. Yeah, that's good. No, but it could still be the other two. So which one is it? If
Yeah.
that's choose
Oh,
it, then
maybe.
we'll decide.
Sorry, I've been like reaching over you.
I don't know why I didn't think about
So,
this.
you want to ask the question?
You're
Yeah, what was your
in
question?
To convince the other people
Um,
that you're a bot.
I could be. They don't know.
What's the molecular weight of titanium?
That could
No,
be in a
that's
bag.
crazy.
Wait, what did he say?
It's another one of the
Wait, what? What's the question?
those detailed questions that you have to like Google or whatever. No, be subjective.
Subjective.
Yeah, be subjective. Ask a subjective
Somebody else
question.
ask the question then.
Something about opinions.
We can always ask the
What's
greatest
your
question.
favorite movie?
Oh, never mind. I've been cut off.
What's your favorite movie? Ask the bot that.
All
That one's
right.
big
What's your
enough.
favorite movie?
I concur.
Let's do that. What's
Big
your
enough
favorite
that
movie?
The bot could easily get away with it.
Yeah.
All right, then Poplopo, are you gonna give us that music?
Oh, yeah, totally. Start where we left off here.
It's not a lot of sound coming out.
I'm sorry, there's only so much I can do. I don't know where my microphone was either.
We need like a live band.
You know
Yeah.
what?
By the way,
we need
Ghoster is
a-
streaming this time. Thank you, Ghoster.
Thanks.
This is the first time we've tried to stream it.
We need Dan is who we need. We need Dan with his piano.
I have Seagrams.
Yeah, what happened to Dan? I haven't seen him in months.
Nancy, but
Something's
It's been a
in my
while.
Slack message.
Oh, that.
toast.
Are we not supposed to? I thought we were supposed to.
He looks good on my screen, but is it just for you,
yes,
Ghoster? He looks messed up.
Oh, well, fuck you, VR Bill. You know what? You know what?
This
At
is
least
how
my at
Ghoster's
least I have
extended.
VR Pill's mouth is recent, so I think he's just jealous because he only recently got a mouth. He used to just be a red ball, so don't be hating on those of us who've had a mouth for years. So, just saying, he's jealous.
All right, are you all? Is anyone not prepared? All right, great. So the question is, what's your favorite movie?
What's your favorite movie?
What's your favorite movie?
The Lone Ranger.
All right.
Okay, Goose.
Him answering is
Tron.
for me.
All right.
Okay, I guess we don't get to ask like more specific questions. Psych?
Nope.
Terminator.
See, that
I
could
feel like that was
no
not
way.
helpful.
That was the idea. It's not. Like, it's
I
vague
think
enough.
someone's lying. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? If it's a chatbot, the chatbot totally loves
I think
Terminator,
it's Psych.
right?
Or
Tron,
Terminator
though.
is
Yeah.
composed to Tron, probably, right?
Yeah.
Have you guys
Yeah.
seen?
Yeah.
Have you guys seen Terminator?
Psych is a bot.
That's what the chatbot is going to become sentient. The chatbot wants
Out
to
of the
be
three
sentient.
movies named, Terminator is the best one.
Yeah.
Well, we should have a vote, right? Or we should just elect one of them.
Yeah, let's do a vote. All right, who thinks it's Kona?
Do exclamation points if you can.
Oh yeah, exclamation points. Okay, who thinks it's Double Goose?
Oh, that's tough.
Oh, hold on.
Oh.
We need time to get her removed.
Mad Max is having issues.
All right, Mad Max.
So that was just me and Mad Max. 2 votes.
Okay, all right, who thinks it's Psych?
Psych.
Everyone.
Unanimous.
Psych, are you a chatbot?
Yes.
All right.
The chatbot likes Terminator. Should that be disturbing? That should be disturbing.
I shall not give any clues of things I actually like next round. Just gonna point that out to Dark. No. The apple cider.
The apple cider's been gaping away from me.
That is creepy.
So I room a little bit further.
I had to ask everyone, have you seen it? But I kind of waited to do that. But yeah. Also, the steak thing was a really strange answer. It was like steak and peas. And
Did you really have pizza? Did you have pizza for dinner?
No, that was this other.
That was Kona.
No.
No, I did
Oh,
not.
I think everybody in this room had pizza for dinner.
No, I had
real life.
Let's get started.
I had vegetable soup. Grilled cheese with some jalapenos and a cheese.
Yeah, if anybody wants to
and
stick
then
around.
some apple cider, of course.
Are you going to come down to us, or do we have to come up there to you?
Pirate
I guess I'll come down here.
Pirate Poe. I like Pirate Poe for that.
Oh,
All right,
shit, I'm
we're
still
done
a
with
pirate.
the game for
That's
now.
all
We'll
right.
come back to it at the end.
Yeah.
I'm just going to
Thanks,
start the
Kona.
thing.
I'll just sit here by Dark, I guess.
Oh, by the way,
let me
just so we
double check.
we figured out during the announcement, you need to call him Psycho so that they all have an O in the end. That's fine. So Nomono, Poplopo, and Psycho.
Psycho.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Double Goose, could you do an intro?
In Japanese, psycho means cool.
Sure, I gotta do my intro after.
There's that.
Hey, let's go hide in the hallway, and we'll prance in when Double Goose introduces us.
Oh yeah, we never did an introduction.
Okay.
Okay, go sit down.
Putting on the Ritz.
I love his little robot outfits, I swear.
You don't have a hall pass.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to ENDGAME with your hosts, Nomono, Poplopo, and Psych.
Oh shit! Here we are. We're doing it again.
Yay!
Welcome to class and/or endgame.
And we're back in
I'm a
school.
bot, just to let everyone know.
Damn robot.
Everything
It looks
I
like
say
Poplopo is perpetually winking at us.
There's new. Oh, that's true. Should I not be a pirate? I mean,
No, stick as a pirate. So today we're going to be talking about like biotechnology, and pirates were the first took advantage of it. I mean, a peg leg is it a count or like a hook?
Yeah, those are prosthetics. They are technological enhancements to the human body.
They were also
So they're like the first
they did wooden
cyborgs.
eyes and stuff. They did wooden
Yeah,
eyes.
see?
Yeah.
Human tree hybrid.
So we come from a great tradition of piracy.
So it makes a lot of sense. But before we get into it, so usually we talk about the end of humanity, where things are going, how things are going to change. And every week we want to bring someone up to get what their point of view is. And this week I want to talk to the Double Goose to see how he feels everything's going to come crashing down.
The goose is loose.
All right, Mr. Goose. So how are you feeling about the future, man?
Lay it on us.
I'm feeling pretty bright about the future myself. I know there's been a lot about negativity and stuff like that, but like to be real, like with a lot of I go to cons periodically and stuff like that. I'm just seeing like a huge amount of like positive energy coming from a lot of people as of lately. At least whenever it comes to some of the younger-ish generation, I know. And some of the older too, like I'm noticing a lot of like change in like ideals, things like that, and stuff along those lines. So I'm just kind of like imagining, like, I don't know, maybe 10, even 20 years from now, like a lot of people could be, getting along a whole lot better, coming across different ideals and be like, yeah, I see what you're saying, things like that.
Do you think that this? Wait, I can't move my arms when I'm sitting down. Let me get back over. Do you think that is like, because I feel like some people are experiencing the opposite of that in like the social media realm, right? Where it's people are kind of down and like arguing and everything. But like, so is the difference that if we're just meet in person, like we're using this technology to sort of have meetups and different conventions or whatever, and like those are all much more positive than social media, and they're still taking advantage of the fact that we can connect. Like these conventions didn't exist, like you couldn't get this organized until we had like the internet, Yeah. What do you think that's going to look like in the future? Like, do you think this is just like we're going to have more and more like kind of meet in person events for people, but we're all like-minded?
Well, I mean, like, if we're talking like in the future, like right now where we are in like virtual reality and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure that like in the future we're just gonna be like right next to each other whenever we want to be. I mean, you just pop open the teleporter to the other world, and boom, you're in Japan, or boom, you're in China, and hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? Yada yada. Or I mean, like with how crazy it is right now, like in like 20 years or so, I mean, we could have some of that. I mean, like. Texting. I mean, you could just, hey, let's go say hi to yada yada. Just go over to his place, or just open up my wrist, and communicator, and just give him a phone call, or maybe like type in a little I don't know, chat message or something to him.
I mean, yeah. So, are you going to the? There's like a VR chat meetup coming up like next month, right? Are you doing that?
Yeah, in Ohio. Or are you talking about the one in Ohio? Yeah, next month. Yeah.
Are there a bunch of those going on now? Maybe there are other people planning them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's I know we got like 12 people or something coming over now. It's like just totally snowballed.
Are we sort of in a weird transition between like? So why do you guys need to meet up in person? Why can't we just be right here together?
That sounds really nice.
It's sort of like. Because why not? I guess could be an answer, but it's sort of also kind of like where VR is. While yes, this is very like intensely real. Like right now, it feels pretty close. Like I'm right here talking to you right now. But we unfortunately, I mean, we haven't quite gotten to that aspect of it yet. And plus, there's I guess a certain traditional aspect to it that I kind of feel like it's like, yeah, I see what you look like in VR. Now I'd like to like see like some like facial expressions, things like that going on with my actual eyes, and like experience life with you in a real life environment, things like that. I guess
that's interesting. Yeah. Wait, I'm hearing like an air conditioner or something.
Yeah, someone's got fan noise on. Who is that?
Oh, I think we have a question.
Not a question. I'm just gonna add to what Goose was already saying. Basically, let's say I'm gonna use Owlboy as a alcohol. What is the word for using a demonstration? I'm gonna use Owlboy as a demonstration. Shit.
Wow, you are drunk.
Basically, yeah. I mean, yeah, I know what Owlboy looks like in VR and stuff, but how can I appreciate his luscious beard and awesome glasses without actually meeting him?
I will toast to that.
That's a good point. We want to appreciate everything about the people that we're spending time with, and we're gonna want to know more about them, right?
You should know me by now.
Just don't take it.
That makes a lot of sense. It's interesting. I just never really thought about that aspect of what the future is going to bring. I'm trying to think of the other big points. Like, okay, do you believe in a singularity coming, a technological singularity?
Technological singularity, like we're all sort of like a hive mind thing? Is that what we're talking about? Or?
And at some point, with the trajectory of like progress will get so extreme that it'll just be unrecognizable to us from like this end, or just it'll be a huge jump.
Like basically we just boop in and link start, and then all of a sudden we're Sword Art Online.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I totally believe we're going to get to that point. And like a portion of me used to be incredibly scared whenever we do reach that point. Mainly because like it just seems so like before I actually started VR, I was like, that doesn't seem natural. It's probably, but like once I've actually gotten into VR, I'm like, whenever that day comes, I'm like, I'm totally excited for that. But there's still a little aspect of me that's a little bit mildly nervous. But for the most part, I'm totally down, and I'm gonna hook in, and I'm probably not gonna jump out.
I think being nervous makes sense because it's like it's going to be the biggest change we've ever faced, right? But at the same time, being positive about it is like it's really nice to approach it with a positive attitude, especially if it happens. Anything else you want to ask Double Goose? I'm trying to think of like other future stuff.
What's your favorite technology that you're looking forward to, or like speculating about to look forward to?
Well, besides virtual reality,
because we're all VR heads for sure. But
you guys are gonna laugh at me, and this is probably gonna sound really weird, but like teledynamics, no. Well, that's the stuff. That's part of it. But so like I've always wanted to like really be a cyborg. I just would really be able to like to say that I'm a cyborg. So like a portion of me, whenever like prosthetics and things like that become like incredibly like, I'm talking like Deus Ex Human Revolution or whatever, De Machina, stuff like that, like to where like everybody's got like a robot arm, they're upgrading them or whatever, yada yada. I'd be probably one of the guys to like legit just get my arm chopped off and replaced with a robot arm.
I want a robot arm. Hell yeah, this guy gets it. This guy gets it.
Freaking cool.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're so proactive. Like obviously, when I get sick, I want technology to fix me. And when my arm falls off, they better get me a better one. And like,
totally.
But you're talking beyond that. You just want to jump on the train like as soon as possible. Like,
well, that's what
we're gonna be talking about that today.
Right now, aren't we? We're a bunch of VR hippies. We're like the guys who got the Atari back in the day at this point.
We are, but you didn't have to sacrifice a part of your body to get the Atari, dude. Like it's gonna be.
It was expensive.
I don't know. Maybe I'll put it in the freezer and put it back. Free trial period, 30 days.
Like,
you'd be surprised how long a limb could be lasted like that.
Why do you know that?
Well, you don't keep your body parts in the freezer. Like, where do you put them?
You took your basic biology, but know
You
that
can just see the
yourself.
commercials now. You can just see the commercials now. Papil's new bionic arm.
Microsoft new bionic arm.
Mike, can you sit down because you're such a big avatar?
I ain't buying it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, hey Monk. You take a seat.
Where did Psych go?
Oh, you want me to take a seat? Sorry, it's just like I take up the whole thing.
Do you have any questions for Double Goose?
Like, I'm consuming this guy when I sit, so I'm like, I don't want to sit.
Do it. You gotta feel cozy.
I can see like the back of your head.
I can see you in brains, man.
There's nothing there. It's normal.
There's a space on that.
I think
side,
Shikari has a question over there.
Yeah.
Oh,
You need
sorry.
a
Go ahead.
periscope between your armpit
Would
and
you
your
go as
nipple.
far as like in Chappie? Would you go as far as like in Chappie? Would you imprint your consciousness into a robot body and live like that?
You see, that's an interesting question because like I don't know if you guys have ever played the game Soma, but like there's a lot of like I don't know. Basically, the game in short. Basically, the game is like you wake up, you're a dude, and you for some reason you're in a robot's body, and later on you find out that your mind's been imprinted into this robot, and then there's a couple of other like decisions you have to make later on in the game. It's really trippy. I highly recommend it.
Sounds great.
I mean, I'd have to like go full on 100% in on that. Basically, being if I did decide to make that decision, like my like human self right now would have to die in order for me to do that, because it just would feel. I mean, like as much as I would love having a clone of myself, I don't know. Like I don't know. That's kind of like
All right,
it's just like
Double Goose.
if it happens, maybe.
He's willing to go and no further. Okay, that's it. We found it.
But I feel like that's like I also don't want to clone. You want continuity, right? Like you don't care if there's a computer with all your personality. I want to live forever.
There's only one. I want one. Yeah, the original, the OG.
Like he said, you're probably gonna die. Like the robot with the personality will be a separate entity with your personality.
That's why I have to die in order to do something like that, because I don't want
hey,
like.
King. What does King got for us?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Actually, this is a frequent topical movie reference that Double Goose has always had. But in RoboCop, I think it was 3, they show like RoboCop has always been like a dystopian future where RoboCop, who is a man who's brought back from the dead as like a cyborg. In one of the commercials, they advertised the Yamaha heart, where it was like, leave your competitors in the dust with this new prosthetic heart. And, they were talking about prosthetic organs and replacing like bits and parts of you to further improve who you are. How do you feel about that? Like okay, we all know that, you won't replace your whole body or go into a clone, but like, how many body parts are you willing to replace before you think you've gone too far?
Slippery slope.
For like a future humanity or something like that.
Yeah.
Would you replace your heart?
I think that's probably the one thing I wouldn't replace. Well, and maybe hold on. Now that you mention it, I mean, I don't know. But anyways, that's another topic.
Answer the question, Goose.
So I mean, upgrades, dude. Okay. So anyways, so like my brain, I might like leave bits and pieces. I'd probably leave like the organic portion, and then like if they had maybe like an upgradable chip you could add onto it, I'd probably do that. But I don't know if I'd get rid of my brain entirely, unless like I knew 100% that I'd be absolutely fine. I think that kind of delves into kind of like the giving my subconsciousness up sort of a thing.
Yeah, man, like that's the exact question I'm waiting to be answered, right? I need like confirmation that I'm going to be intact. And I wonder how far away that is. Why didn't you say RoboCop 3 was your favorite movie? You lied. You said it was Tron.
It is Tron. I love Tron. I RoboCop. True. Every time I see Kane, I say "Dead or Alive, you're coming with me, Kane," which is a quote that he says all the time for RoboCop 2.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
Oh wait, actually, sorry, Mad Max, because you haven't asked a question yet.
Oh, actually, I just wanted to throw, because we were asking Goose what kind of organs he would maintain, and I keep throwing it out there. I really like the idea of the brain cases from Ghost in the Shell. Just pluck my brain out of this body, put it in this body as long as I like it, and then this one's getting a little clunky here. Put me in a new body.
You took my thing, man.
How far away do you think we are from a head transplant?
They actually plan on one this year.
Shut up! You're ruining it. I'm asking.
We're really close.
You'll never guess. How long do you think?
Oh, this year, dude. It's.
Oh, you're brilliant. Well, I mean, who knows? We don't know. We'll talk about it. I'm still iffy on how successful that thing might come out. Yeah, go ahead.
We've actually already transplanted dogs' heads. I don't know if that's relevant or not.
Wow.
But what does that mean? Because you can't ask a dog. We do that. Like, what happened?
It lived for about 2 days and then it died.
That's not long enough.
Yeah. It was 1945. Okay. In 1945.
Oh wow, that was 1940. Oh yeah, I remember stuff like that.
It was probably
wasn't that like the Germans did something like that?
Yes, it was. There was the crazy German scientists.
It was the Russians, and they grafted
Russians did it too.
One dog
Russians did it
onto
too,
another.
but Germany also.
Was still
Germany
living.
And then like they
Germany
also
did it
had
as well.
like they had like the brain and like the only thing on it was the head, but the head was like panty. It was really weird. But
if anybody's interested, I can give you a link to the German video
there's like a
and the Russian
documentary
video if
that the
anybody's
Germans did on
interested.
Finland do anything?
All right, so maybe one last question.
Yeah. But why have prosthetics? Sorry?
You cut out there for a second. I didn't hear the beginning.
Okay, why have a body at all? Like in Lawnmower Man, where your consciousness gets sucked into the internet, basically, so you can be anywhere in the world doing anything in like 300 milliseconds.
Because that kind of, once again, that sort of delves into like the if I was plugged into it, and I could unplug my, well, I don't know if I would, that's an interesting question, because I just said earlier, like, if I were to plug in myself, my consciousness, like, into the internet, I'd, just stay in virtual reality forever. I'd probably do it. That's an interesting, I suppose, man, I'm all tongue-tied right now. I suppose that wouldn't quite be the same as transferring my mental capacity into a robot, because I'd still technically be me. I'd just be like mentally there, but still.
A robot is still digital. You actually wouldn't feel anything through your fingertips because there's no skin, there's no nerves, there's no nothing.
We had receptors.
Yeah.
You could have had receptors.
We can put you in a robot. I imagine we could have sensors like that.
Yeah.
Pain receptors.
We're really speculating on a bunch of stuff that it's so far in the future. We have no idea what's going to happen. There are all these questions that
upgraded genitals. Like, where did that come from?
Well, I assume we're all dreaming of that, aren't we? Isn't that your main concern?
There's already a fix for that. It's called Viagra.
I would honestly say my main concern is immortality.
Yeah, what do you think, Goose? This
Immortality?
This is
or what?
Yeah. You want to be immortal? Immortal robot?
Well,
yes, please.
Well, wait. He'll probably have to have at least one human organ to at least still be technically a human being, someone to experience it.
No. Technically, the standpoint of what is human and what is not a human is not based upon what we are. It's based on consciousness and our empathy, that kind of thing. That's what bases someone as a human or not.
Yeah, let's just assume it's possible that they can preserve you and you can become immortal, however the technology works.
That's a question. It's not an answer. And besides, this is Double Goose's freaking segment. So what does Double Goose say?
Well, actually, my background, I actually come from a very religious background, and while I'd say, regarding religion itself, I'm not a huge fan of like a lot of the stuff that goes behind religion, but I would say that a lot of my personal beliefs do delve more into like biblical. So with that being said, immortal. Well, I believe so. Biblically, the body is a vessel for the soul. And whenever the body dies, the soul leaves, and you go, to the great beyond, where heaven or hell, yada yada. So what I would personally probably say, like, I would, technically when you do die, eventually, you do become immortal in, the spirit realm, whatever you would like to call that. So here on Earth, yes, I would probably choose more to die instead of become immortal.
Interesting.
Okay.
I think we are good, right? Okay. That was a lot more questions than we usually.
I think we covered it. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've been analyzed enough? Like we've dug into you enough?
I feel you've dug into me plenty.
Thank you very much. All right. Thank you, Double Goose.
Yay.
All right, get back up here, guys. I feel lonely.
Yeah, well, I'm getting there. All right.
Queens Who Wants to Live Forever comes to mind.
Oh, that's a good transition song. We'll use.
Pirate Po.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, Pyropo, how you doing?
Hello. Yeah.
So wait. So what do you guys think? How do you react to some of that? Because that's sort of naturally started feeding into exactly what we were going to talk about today. Biotechnology.
It did. I don't know. I'm interested in a lot of those different topics. I mean, I've got my own preferences on how far I'm willing to go, but yeah, we could talk about how close we are.
Sorry. I was thinking that we're already like right now, those of us
Come
in
on in, take a
headsets have
seat.
already like replaced our bodies. Come in, come
It's like,
in.
get up here. I
Yeah,
can't. You're running away. I can't hear you.
Temporarily.
I said most of us like I was just thinking like what about right now? Like, what's the what are we doing right now? And I was thinking about the Matrix and stuff and thinking that like we've kind of started like we're not laying in like a little coffin type thing with wires connected to our head, but we do have
devoted to changing biology and altering it and changing it to different forms.
Right now you're a bug. Like the DNA of a bug and the composition of a bug. Like, do you view it as like your transition, like you change your body into a bug, or have you really just kind of like become a bug?
I mean, I'm not talking about my avatar, but I mean my perception. My perception is enhanced to perceive this dimension, this virtual world, and eventually we might get to the point where we're doing that not through headsets but through our eyeballs, and we're moving our hands in virtual space with our own hands and everything. That would be a type of biotechnology, I think, that wouldn't replace our bodies. It would enhance them and augment them. And Kona, you've got a comment?
Nope. Or maybe you're muted.
Yeah, my bad. Anyways, it's just to follow up on what Psych was just talking about. Like when I'm in here, like I don't feel right if I'm not this avatar now. Like I've been this avatar for so long. When I do enjoy other avatars, but I always go back to Polo because I don't feel right when I'm not this character. So technically, what he's saying would be around accurate.
Is there a term for that? The way we identify with a specific symbol? Embodiment. And you just get used to a... So should we start...
That's not exactly what we wanted to focus on today, right? Because, I mean, we talk a lot about VR, but back in, outside of this dimension, there's still the real world going on. There's lots of fleshy stuff going on. And so we wanted to talk about that a little bit. Some of the... Well, it's accurate, so deal with it.
we talk a lot about stuff that's like so far in the future that it's really hard to get any, like, really get our hands on it and actually kind of discuss what's literally going to happen. But there is stuff that's like right around the corner and happening right now that is really interesting.
Exactly. Because the thing is, we talk a lot about computers and digitization and robots and everything, but more and more as time goes by, like we're also finding that our own bodies are basic. I mean, our bodies are machines. They're biological machines that have been engineered by nature to function, to have all sorts of different functions, and we can manipulate those functions and learn how to change them and learn about their programming and so on and so forth. Kono's bored by it? Is that the idea?
Oh, no, I'm normally in bed by this point. I'm just staying up for you guys.
We appreciate it. So
thanks.
I reversed the way that we were going to go through stuff, but like we basically were almost talking about the head transplant already. Should we just transition into that?
Yeah.
So do you want to give us some details or?
Sure. There's this Italian surgeon. He's Italian, right?
Sergio Cannavaro or Cannavaro?
Cannavaro. Yeah, Sergio Cannavaro is the surgeon who basically his big undertaking. He wants to do a head transplant, or as Mimi mentioned to me, it's a body transplant. If you consider that the body or the body's just meat and your real self is in your head, then it's a body transplant. But in the news they call it a head transplant. They're taking one dude's head and putting it on another guy's body. The guy that is going to, the body that is going to receive the new head is like he's brain dead. I think he's in a vegetative state, and so the plan is to take the
medical waste. Yeah, he goes away.
Something like that.
Does he
probably
get to go to a dog or something? He gets
I don't think he gets to do anything.
I don't know. Maybe they'll take his head, put it on the other body, so he can have a proper burial. I don't.
Maybe they'll do that. The surgery is supposed to take like 17 hours or something like that, and the idea is that he's going to take a head from someone who is paralyzed or has a
he's got a he's got a nerve/muscular disorder. I've read up on it.
Yeah, something like that. So they're going to take his head and reattach it to this new body with all these different, retouch the nerves and the fluids, and like they're just going to make it all work somehow.
So I don't buy it, man. And I read the article, and it sounds legit. Like, it sounds like some people are taking him seriously, but it's really hard for me to believe that this is actually happening this year. Because, like, if this really was going to happen, then why can't he basically solve everyone who's paralyzed? Like, if he really has like a special way to like reconnect our nerve tissue, then it feels like we would have many steps before we're like, okay, now I'm going to chop your head off and reconnect it to another body. Like that feels like it's the end of a long series of medical advances that haven't happened yet.
Well,
but maybe I just have no idea.
It is possible though that he could be a paraplegic. He could become conscious as a paraplegic, so it is possible that the conscious existence, like I'm just saying, I don't think that this is likely, but I'm just saying that it's not necessary for him to regain movement, which is the spinal cord communicating, the brain communicating with the rest of the body, for this to be successful necessarily. Like if they're completely paralyzed, but it's the same person, then it might be
I think
interesting.
you're right, but I think that is the goal, though, is to give him a working body when he doesn't have a working body. Is kind of the idea. But
if you transfer me to another body, but that body is also paralyzed, fuck you, man. Like, that's not what I wanted.
That seems like the most likely scenario if he survives.
We ought to start a
The guy's
poll.
already terminally ill, so.
Mad Max has a question.
It's not like he has anything to lose.
Just
We ought to start a poll.
Nomono was talking about the different steps that it's going to take to get to the point of just hacking somebody's head off and putting it on another body. What I found interesting, and it happened about 3 or 4 years ago, is that they actually started perfecting hand transplants. And I just can't get over that you can make something as intricate as the hands work again.
Is that the same guy?
Because I thought that was a long way off too.
I know they have had some success with nerve regrowth, but I guess I'm not as informed as I really need to be to discuss.
I remember
the
hearing
subject,
about the hand transplant in the same article or around the same subject. So I forget if it is the exact same guy or maybe the surgeon who did the hand transplant. But you don't happen to know, right? What do you?
It's actually based on a patient-to-patient basis. If you're already a paraplegic, which the guy they're actually transplanting head from is not. See, paraplegic actually has nerve damage within their spinal cord, so they're sadly kind of fucked. But someone who has an issue with like basic like body deformation or like they were born with some type of bone disorder, something like that, they would greatly benefit from a head transplant. We also can regrowth of nerves and stuff. It's a weird mixture of crap that basically glues them together. It's weird, but they also have to put you in a coma for so many months or something like that to actually for everything that's heal together. Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous. But yeah, we can already do hands and legs and all that stuff. I mean, really, the head's the only thing we haven't done yet.
Yeah, the article.
If you got your sound going. Yeah, we got like
a whole, say that again.
Somebody back there's somebody's got a whole like
somebody's being loud.
Okay. But the thing is, let's say this head transplant thing, it's a guy, and they actually succeed. My guess would be that when this guy wakes up in bed in the hospital, the first thing he's going to check is he'll look under the covers and see what the new equipment is like.
So that would be Catapult's first priority then, when he gets his body transplant.
After you recover from the fact that like you've gone into whatever the afterlife is and come back and your body's revived and you're just so thankful that you're still alive, and then bam, what's going on down there?
And then priority.
The doctor hears, yeah, baby, and hey, it succeeded.
All right. Well, and actually, kind of thinking on that, though, like beyond the simple, I guess, connecting the two pieces together. There is like, if you think about it, if this person, first of all, he now has two DNA. His head has different DNA from his body, and he's gonna have to take all kind of medicines probably forever to not reject each other. And also, if he would have children, it would be the body's children, wouldn't it?
Oh, that's weird.
think so, yeah.
You're right. Yes, yes.
So just there's a lot of interesting things to think that way.
Another thing that I read. So, like, the next thing he's planning, right, and I think it's within the next 3 years or something, is doing just the brain transplant, which sort of gets by a bunch of, like, rejection concerns, right? Because if you move the head to another body, then you have to, like, connect up a bunch of stuff that, like, you're going to have problems with the body rejecting it. But if it's just the brain, I think there's less going on, right? Isn't that, I don't know if it's easier.
I don't know enough about that, but I don't think it's easier. And man, the ambition of this dude, like, it's admirable, but I don't know if his sense of realism is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I guess we're gonna find out though, right?
The science part is, I think, a little iffy, but I mean, how many people is anyone here CPR trained? I just became CPR. Yeah, okay. So I just became CPR trained. I never, like, I don't know. I just had never done it. It was for this camp that I was at or whatever.
If one of you go down, I can't save you though.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good to know. I wonder if they have an AED in this virtual school.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about CPR training, which I didn't really think about or realize until I went through it, is that basically it's kind of very related to this, because CPR training is basically the human way of when someone loses their heartbeat and they're basically dead or very close to being dead. It's our last attempt. It's like the mechanical pumping of the blood to the brain so that we can keep them alive, so that they aren't, so that they don't actually die. And then we have a machine, an AED, that you can connect to them and kind of, send electrical shock through to try to jolt them and have their heart start beating again. So it's really interesting to me because I think that's the fringe that we're at right now. And then talking about kind of like taking a head and onto a body and like transplanting it. I guess if both are alive, then maybe you don't have to kind of face this issue. But I don't know. It's just really interesting. I think like we're kind of at a limit, it seems like right now, where we just have this like mechanical way of keeping someone alive.
Yeah. It's like we need whatever. Sorry.
I gotta go. You guys all have a good night.
Oh, okay.
All right, thank you, sir. Good night.
See ya.
There's some interesting questions, I think. Okay, go ahead. Clem?
Two things to add. Like, one thing, I don't know if you guys know it, but there's actually, it's almost like a mechanical, like, arch that'll put over people that'll actually have, like, a piston that will keep basically performing CPR for them and, like, the ambulance
That
stuff.
sounds familiar. I think I've heard of that.
And with the AED thing, it actually doesn't restart the heart. I just wanted to clarify just for confusion. What it actually does is the heart will actually be quivering to the point where it's not pumping blood efficiently. What you're doing is essentially stopping the heart in hopes the heart is going to try to reset its rhythm.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're not actually starting a heart, you're actually stopping it.
So you're talking about the fragility of the human body and like all the ways it can go wrong.
Yeah.
It makes me so nervous. But that's
It's
what
a
the
miracle
biotechnology is
any of
for,
us are
though,
still
right?
alive. That
Yeah,
our bodies
it
are all still
is.
functioning.
I know.
Darwin's
like,
theory.
How are we even?
You're sort of reminding me of like, so, I mean, we don't have to spend any time on this, but like the red flag I got from the Sergio Caravana, I forget how to say his name, the Italian surgeon who's doing the head transplant. Like one of the things in the article was basically him saying that this is the end of the religious discussion, where he's like, when we do this, then we know there's no afterlife, or there is, and that's the end of the discussion. And that I think is such a preposterous thing to say, because like the head transplant is like, I don't know how that's different from people who do have like brain death and come back, or their heart stops and then they come back.
Well,
Like, how come that didn't end the religious argument?
I was thinking about this, and it does address a question from a very specific framework or hypothesized reality. And not all of them. I think even religious people are kind of like, to them it's kind of like a mystery how it all works. But basically, if you think that each human has a spirit, and the spirit resides in the body, and the spirit belongs to the body until it dies, and then the spirit moves on. But then, like, if each spirit, you know, belongs to each body, then you've got the question here of, okay, who is the dude going to be when he wakes up? Is he going to have one spirit or two? Or and if he's only going to have one, which one? And if it's the one in the head, then doesn't that show that the spirit, the human spirit, whatever that is, only resides in the brain and doesn't reside in the rest of the body? And then, I mean, that's sort of the, like, it's very like narrow, I feel like, delineated concept, but that's kind of where the question is, I think.
I guess
someone else has some other input.
That breaks down for me because it's taking things so literally. Oh, sorry. But just
no.
like, is that what you were gonna say or something?
No, I'm saying you speak, and then
but like when they talk about the spirit, they're not saying it in a specific literal way where it's like you have a spirit and it resides exactly in your left eyeball, and if you transfer your left eyeball, it's a very loose term, right? And it has a lot of symbolic meaning. And so when you start to tie it into like,
but here's the thing, that model though of the spirit residing in the human body for many, many hundreds of years, that was the literal understanding that people had of how humanity worked, of how life worked. And so like it's not completely unprecedented to think about it in those terms.
I guess I'm thinking like, you know, I don't necessarily believe in the spirit, but I think if I did, this would not be the way to convince me, right? Like if you transfer somebody's head and then go, look, his spirit didn't change, therefore there's no, like, I'm not convinced. That doesn't change my mind.
Yeah.
Right. And so he's, again, a little too ambitious on that front, I think, as well. He's just got
that made me really feel like
for how it's going to go.
I don't trust him.
Hey,
should we get
do you want to sit down?
Have a seat. Stop dancing on the table. There's no dancing in school.
Join us.
There's no dancing.
Nope. They probably don't realize the show's actually going on.
Or they might not be okay. Wait. So Regis, you were going to say something.
I was actually thinking about talking about the separate DNA situation, and also it's not just DNA; it's the body actually. Like so, the new person will have the antibodies of the deceased. It'll have the stomach biome of the deceased. So there'll actually be more living cells, like different types of organisms in the donated body than there will be in the brain. So like in many ways, there's more life coming from the donated side, I guess. So like there is, so it's not, I know people say, oh, you reside in the heart, but you don't really. But you actually, there is actually, there's large amounts of life and processes that are disconnected from the brain entirely that this new person will have to deal with.
There is some evidence that some of our psychology, like some of our thinking and feeling, like is influenced by stuff that's happening in the rest of our body. Like our gut is like the activity in our gut influences how we think and how we feel, and so that is a part of who we are in a pretty influential way. So
psychosomatic too.
It'll probably change the amount of oxygen that hits his brain on a normal level because he's gonna have different lungs that work differently, and so his brain will actually function at a different speed with a different metabolism. Like it could fundamentally change him.
Teacher. Oh, do you actually have something to say?
We're doing a show, dude. Come on.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Yes, please.
I mean, you're very cute, but yes, go leave. All right. If the head transplant is successful, we are actually going to get a lot of good information about it, like about psychology and identity and stuff. Like we can talk to this guy and say, okay, do you feel different? Do you feel like you're a different person? Like, has any of your thought processes altered? Like, what's different in you? And I think it would be really interesting to find that out.
And interview him and on his experience and what his thoughts are and how he's feeling about his own body and all those kinds of things.
What a bizarre thing to happen to you, right? Where you wake up and you're still pretty much there, but a big chunk of the way your personality works or your consciousness is different in some way. Like, I don't know. That's pretty intense.
I mean, I could actually see that leading to intense. I think it could be like just as I mean, you look at people who have amputations and phantom limb, and they feel their arm there when it's not. Like, I could see it being a very depressing thing to awake in a different body and feel kind of disconnected and like you're not.
But I feel like you already kind of got to be somewhat depressed to agree to go along with it, right? Because you
possibly, unless you're at the end of life,
very much risking. Yeah, like you're risking death. You're risking like horrible outcomes, and you gotta be, you gotta be willing to do that. Kona, what do you got for us?
Yeah, just talking about like the souls and stuff like that, and like what is a part of like hearts, the brain, whatever. Mostly, I would think the soul is part of your consciousness would be controlled by your brain, but at the same time, we also have evidence of stuff like there's people that's gotten heart transplants that wind up liking things that they used to not like certain types of foods and stuff. So it's very fickle topic and very kind of woven together because it's hard to say that you can't sit there and say your soul's fully controlled by your brain because, like I said, it wouldn't change your opinions about things just because you get an organ transplant. I don't know. It'd be a very odd thing. Like when you come to looking at is it that person or is this person if you get a head transplant? Because you don't know. Maybe it's both.
Yeah, it could be like a merging of the two. I mean, because DNA has got to. I feel like DNA has got to have a role in it, right? Because it's got so much information, and I mean, yeah, it's mostly used in like cell division, but there's also the human body's such an interconnected system. Like it's so like everything affects everything else, and it is so complex that its complexity is part of the reason this seems like a kind of crazy idea that it's even happening in the first place.
It might be weird, but I mean, we might create a entirely different entity from what there was before on both sides.
Yeah.
We are the ecosystem, right? It's like that's a little bit easier to digest than like I'm one specific body part or something.
Yeah.
Right. You're very much an environment for a whole bunch of different processes.
Should we Mad Max?
Yeah.
Actually, Poplopo was talking about the human body being so interconnected and things like that. A lot of the study of toxicology is, you're dealing with minute amounts of poison that have a huge difference on, your body as a whole, as far as antibiotics and things like that are actually just cytotoxins and neurotoxins at their base level. But if you just change the chemistry a minute amount, a couple of millimeter or a couple of grams or nanometers or something like that, milligrams, that you can make somebody better, or you can make somebody extremely sick.
Yeah, it's kind of like what he's saying. It's like 5 milligrams will kill you. 2 milligrams make you feel better.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about parasites too. When you guys mentioned environment and things like that, like, would it be kind of like a parasite? Would that be what it would be like if your brain was, transported into someone else's body? Is that the same thing?
Like
is
the
that
body
different?
would perceive the brain as a parasite?
Yeah, like is it technically?
Well, I guess by definition,
it's technically a host.
I mean, it's utilizing all the nutrients and the energy. That's weird to think
like a
about.
parasite.
Well, see, that's another thing. Like, it's your brain. It's your brain that controls your white blood cells. It's your brain that. Sorry about the hiccups. It's your brain that controls the white blood cells that tell it to attack. Said it's your shit. Fucking Rick comment. It would be your brain. It would be your brain feeding your cells and stuff information of what should be a parasite, what is not, what's a foreign body. But it's very hard to tell because what is your brain going to be telling to another body when you transplant it? Is it going to tell the white blood cells that your brain is okay, or is it going to be like, what the fuck's going on?
I mean,
and that's what a parasite does.
To communicate with it, right? Because that's true.
Yeah.
But like, will it even be able to communicate with the body? What if the formatting of the neural signals is too different, and it's like they're speaking a different language, and so they won't be able to communicate at all?
Just to throw this out there, if this winds up being successful, there's going to be transplanted guy from girl to guy. That's going to happen. What the hell is that going to be like?
Yeah,
that's similar to transgender, maybe.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, what is your brain going to say to that body and vice versa? What's the body going to say to the brain when you completely switch?
And all that.
Yeah, that's true.
That'll be interesting.
Kane, you've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the soul for a little bit. You know, in the law of conservation of energy, it says that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Now, who's to say that the soul isn't energy of the body, and that when the body is destroyed, the energy just transfers from one place to another? It's kind of like, you know, kinetic
It's
energy.
never been detected in any way. I mean,
So it hasn't been detected, but I mean, okay, so if you think of the soul not,
and
if
it's
you
not
think of the
real.
soul as patterning though, instead of as energy or as a substance, if it's more like a pattern, if it's more like an abstraction, then that would, I mean, that can neither be created or destroyed. It's like mathematics, right? Like it sort of exists in this abstract state, which also seems like another possibility, but also relevant to the situation.
I'm not saying it's entirely abstract. I'm saying maybe there's a possibility that we haven't found a way to actually measure it, and that you know,
I agree with that.
Right, there's a few different possibilities here for sure. Like, and just having this situation happen would I think give us information about it, whatever the situation is, you know, whatever is true. Like we'd get more information about it regardless, because we'd have a entirely new situation to study, and case studies are great.
Can I comment, please, Poplopo?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, the thing is, let's say 1,000 years ago, the people and the scientists back then thought they knew everything, but we are at the same situation right now. We might think we are a very scientific society. We think, oh, we know all the stars, we know all the equations and the physics and shit. But who knows, maybe 500 years from now, some new Albert Einstein has come up with a new idea to measure the soul or something like that. So nobody knows. We are never at the end of science. We are always improving.
Yeah. The best scientists I know generally say things like, no matter how much I learn, I only learn how much I don't know. Like, there's more and more and more out there that I don't know, because there's always questions, just more and more. It never stops. Very daunting.
Also, I just want to let you guys know that the bot thinks that I asked the bot, can you transfer her head to a new body? And her response was, let me think, why don't you ever see the headline, Psychic wins lottery? So I think we basically have our answer.
What does that mean?
Just let me know. I know. So, I'm just letting you guys know.
I love that answer. It's obviously a bit of a non sequitur, but not quite.
We've been going for an hour or close to an hour, and there's other stuff we want to get to really quickly. So like, can we just take this question really quickly and push on really fast?
Yeah, let's do that.
It's actually more touching on what Kane said earlier. I don't really believe if we transfer the head or anything, I don't think we would really be creating any energy per se. We would be just transferring it. Like, it wouldn't really be creation of anything. You'd be just transferring what there is already. I do, but 100% agree. You cannot create something out of nothing. Like, I do believe that 100%. Nor can you get something from nothing. Also, to touch on the soul thing. Scientists have already verified one thing: we do lose a minute amount of weight, very little, when we die.
Well, that's a study that has been done, but it was done in the late 1800s, and it wasn't deemed like reviewed later. It said there were some issues, like some variables that weren't controlled for because it was the late 1800s and they didn't have the same technology. But that has been done and shown. It just needs to be replicated to be like.
Yeah, and here's the question:
really
why have they not?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Okay, so
all right, who cares? Let's move on.
Great. Yeah,
we'll never know what the soul is.
There's lots of that's exactly what we didn't conclude. But anyway, okay, so that's a good relevant topic. But we've got some other biotech to talk about. One of them
there was
is
CRISPR, the blood mosquito.
Oh yeah. Oh, let's see.
And a fourth one.
Let's talk about CRISPR because that's a big deal.
And lab meat.
And lab meat. That's one of my favorites.
Oh, lab meat. I like lab meat.
Is that the homegrown liver?
Let's talk about lab meat, actually.
Homegrown hamburgers.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Never
yeah,
feel
that's
guilty about bacon again.
weird.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
I would try it. I would
me
try
neither.
it, but it seems weird.
I mean, it seems a little weird, but for me, it seems perfect. I'm a.
Oh, it can't be any worse than some of the other stuff I've eaten.
Yeah, I'm a very reluctant vegetarian. Like I don't purchase meat, but man, I miss it so much. And this would be perfect because I would be able to eat, I would be able to eat meat without the evil part of it. So that would be awesome.
I just gotta add this in there. You're vegetarian, correct?
Cause I'm what?
You're vegetarian currently?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm like just super far from that. It's like you're the left side. I'm completely right. I've eaten sausage made of 100% blood.
But I'm not saying I wouldn't.
It's so good.
That's a bit much for me.
No, see, I love meat. Like, no matter how many plants I eat, my body always tells me that meat is delicious and good for me, and like it's just the best thing in the world. And that's a conflict with my head that says, you know what, we're enslaving living creatures for slaughter, and that's, like I don't enjoy that. I don't want to participate
Slaughter
in that.
and food.
But
And deliciousness.
but thanks, Seth. But the lab-grown meat is great. You take one animal cell, you put it in a culture, and it just grows into flesh right there on your kitchen counter or your lab counter or whatever.
See,
And
she
then
had
you
me
can
up
eat
to
it.
say kitchen counter. Now it sounds terrible.
Clean it.
Yeah.
Wherever you get it from, I don't know. But really though, like in the future, we're going to be able to fabricate this stuff ourselves, right? Because we're going to all have biological 3D printers that are going to be able to take living tissue and turn it into other stuff. So
Before
I'm
you go
ready
too
for
far
it.
into the future, what's right around the corner? Because we're actually pretty close to some of this being a reality,
We're
right?
already printing living human livers. Sorry,
And
stuttered a little bit.
that's true too. But that is a little bit more expensive than culturing meat, which you read in that article that the let's see, what was the hamburger was like
it was like
$18,000.
$30,000?
No, 30. They have reduced that. Like the hamburger, the price of lab-grown hamburger is down to like $20. Like
But
$20
so
per
like
hamburger.
4 years ago, it was like what, 300,000? Is that what it said?
Right? Yeah.
So that's a fucking expensive hamburger. And then a few years ago, the meatball was only 18,000. And now, did you just say it's like $20, or what did you say?
The
That's
hamburger
still a lot
is like $20.
higher, though.
That's just a few years,
Yeah,
though.
it's not mass produced yet.
Yeah.
Next year, it's
going
gonna be free.
Where did you hear it was $20? Like, I've never heard that. I follow it really
I read
close.
an article. You can get them in California somewhere. I don't really know where.
I feel like they sell them in San Francisco,
still working
and
to
I
bring it
think
under
it's like
power.
$30 or $50, but I
Oh,
don't
man,
actually know that. I
wanna
didn't do
go
any
try
research.
that.
Yeah, I
wanna
should have
try
done that.
lab-grown
I should have
meat
done my
so
research
bad.
and go.
Has anybody here tried it?
Does anybody?
The
Come
question
on,
is,
lab
what
grown
kind of
meat.
meat is it? Are we
You know
talking
what?
poultry?
I'll try it.
Definitely try it, but I
Beef.
haven't.
I will look it up, see if I can get some. I'll
How do we know it's not
if I can
human?
find some, I will try it and
Why
let you know
not?
if I can find some.
Okay, well, if it's human meat, it's lab-grown human meat, right? So I don't know. That gets weird, right?
No.
Is it technically cannibalism if it was
If I
cannibalism?
wanted to
that
taste
one.
pork, if I wanted to taste
We can
pork,
trace
I'd
the
just eat a
DNA
pig.
back to a person with it.
Yeah.
Then that's kind of creepy.
Oh, that'd be
No,
awesome
no,
if
don't-
it's lab grown human meat and it's a specific human. So you're like, oh, I'm just eating a little bit of, I don't know what human I would want to eat.
Oh, Paul is good this week.
Paul, man, did you try Paul?
You want to try some of my own?
Paul must have changed his diet. He tastes pretty good.
Bring a whole new
man.
meaning to the flavors.
Could we make
Everybody's
food?
vegan in this room.
It's gonna be designer
That's how it's
meats.
labeled.
People. But
This is
that's
Paul. This is Paul.
We could have like cane bacon. Like, how awesome would that be?
This is the first time I've ever
sounds a
gotten
bit
weird
gamey.
about it, the concept
Yeah.
now. Now I'm like, oh
Yeah,
man, this
Well,
is going
I
down
imagine this is
I
actually
can't
not
do
going to be a
this anymore.
problem because I don't think they're going to be selling anything like human meat for a long time because, like, this is something that they like. This
love
is
how
such
he
a
doesn't-
useful technology, right? Like, they don't want it to be
I love
scary.
how
They
he
want it
doesn't
to like.
resound the fact that he's literally saying we're going to in the future right now. I don't know if he realizes that.
Yeah, eventually.
It'll be a few years.
Eventually,
but I'll
yeah.
do it. No, okay, but what Nomono was saying is that there's a lot of benefits. Like, there's a lot of different types of benefits to growing lab-grown meat, which are
Let me look at my notes.
No
Yeah.
fat. No fat.
Oh, Well, Poplopo, there would be less antibiotics in the food-producing animals. We wouldn't be using growth-promoting hormones. Wait, these are real. These are good. The land required to produce meat would be cut by 99%.
You're giving me that tone. I can't.
I'm not trying to give you a tone. I'm trying to give you real information. And it would cut associated need for water by 90%, and there'd be less pathogens and food poisoning. So, like, these are all...
Less evil. That wasn't on your list, but there's less, like, slavery.
And less murdering animals for fun. Or profit.
Yeah.
So this is all, like, great benefit.
It's not commercially available, and it said they're aiming for 2021 before it'd be commercially available in any shape or form. Yeah, there's nobody. The company that's making it is making veggie burgers right now. It's not actually lab-grown meat. They're going to make the money off of veggie burgers to make.
Available out here.
No, it's the same company's name, but they make veggie burgers. But they say they're working on lab-grown meat. No, Memphis Meats has no products actually for sale right now, other than T-shirts.
I read an article that said, "Where can I get lab-grown meat?" and it listed like 4 different places.
Well, I mean, regardless, it's the very now or the very near future. This is not a decade from now. It's like right around the corner, and it'll become bigger and bigger. And like, what a huge change! Like those things that you're sort of saying I was putting on too much of a tone. Those are all massive. Like those are massive bonuses. Like that's gonna help us so much with like the amount of fucking methane. Like these fucking cows, man. Have I told you about these cows that are just shitting into the atmosphere and fucking everything up for us?
Buffalo is better.
And then you got to feed them a bunch of this food, and it's all the water that they use up. We need more water, you guys. And now we can we'll actually get the drink. It's gonna be great.
Oh, that'll be so good. California will finally get rid of its drought. We'll be in good shape.
And eventually, it'll happen sort of naturally, right? Because there won't be that debate anymore between like, are you a vegetarian for moral reasons or like for some kind whatever. Like at some point, it won't matter. And I don't know. I'm just looking forward to that day, I guess. Sorry,
Me too.
Going off on it.
Just wanted to point out the good that I see in it is the fact that I'm going to go out on a limb here. Being able to grow stuff like that, being able to grow meat, so on, would be really great for being able to do space travel and stuff. Like we wouldn't have to worry about being able to feed your people, that kind of thing. Because I mean, in the imminent future, it's gonna happen. We're gonna leave this planet. Like, it's just a thing. It probably won't be in our lifetime, but it's gonna happen.
Don't say that. It's gonna happen in my lifetime.
Years. Like Mars is happening. So
one can wish. That's for sure. One can wish.
Yeah,
and if it's a thing, bye. I'm leaving this fucking planet and bye.
Coda's gone. He's gone.
I'm leaving this planet and I'm taking my space meat with me.
Exactly.
Frying up like lab-grown hamburgers on Mars. It's gonna be sweet.
Oh, that would be great.
That'd be good.
I wouldn't put faith in Mars. I'm just saying it has no atmosphere. It has no magnetic field, which means it gets bombarded by radiation on a daily basis.
Where do you want to go? There's nowhere else to go.
There's a planet. Hold on. There's a planet, actually the galaxy away from Mars, that is habitable. We already know it's habitable. It has liquid water on it. I know, but technically, if we leave now, we could get there in about 2 light years.
Let's leave now.
Rejects.
Okay, rejects. Oh my goodness.
I think what's interesting, also talking about the lab-grown meat, though, and there's people like Kona and others that, I mean, obviously, Poplopo, and I'm the same way, we seriously concerned for the health and safety of animals and stuff. But there's literally large swaths of the population that have no worry about the pain of an animal. So, like, after it becomes commercially available, there's going to be actually a huge battle of people because ultimately people like us are going to say, okay, now it's time to ban the eating of actual animals. And there's going to be a large amount of people.
The battle will be economic. Like the consumers will decide which one do I want to purchase, and the manufacturers will decide which one is cheaper.
Lab-grown meat can't make cuts of steak.
Actually.
It will.
Yes, it can actually. And I'm a meat eater, and I'm actually sitting here saying, yes, it can. They've already proven it can.
All the lab-grown meat I've seen
can
has
it
been
make
just
it taste
ground
like
meat.
buffalo meat? That is my question. That's
Yeah,
my favorite meat.
Like 5 years ago, everyone was saying there can't be any VR because VR sucks now, so no one's ever gonna do it.
But what I'm saying is, if somebody says they still want to keep animals and butcher them because that's the right way to do it, that's just their politics. That will exist.
Yeah,
Do you think?
What I'm saying
Only
is,
to a duration of time.
Like it'll become evident which one is cheaper, which one is tastier, which one is like better, like has less like restrictions on how much you can do.
Different opinions. The final game
will be a luxury thing.
Yeah, but in the
it's all about money, sadly.
World, it's all about money.
I think Ewan's right.
Should a person be allowed to grow and slaughter their own animals? And again, we're not there yet, but that's going to be a huge debate. That's probably going to end up in the Supreme Court 50, 60, 70 years from now. Just saying that's something that I see that's going to happen in the future.
Wait, I want to talk really quick. Back up. Come back here.
Sorry.
Shit. Now I forget what I was saying. Yeah, I think that people might still have, like, I don't see, well, fuck it. You had your point. I'm done. I sort of.
Wait, what did I want to know what I see Kane back there, but hold on. Ewan. Wait, hold on. Yeah, Ewan, what did you mean by it's going to be a luxury?
Like, I'm sure if it's going to be commonplace to eat lab-grown meat because it's cheaper and better for everything. There's going to be like a
delicacy.
Is it
to have organic meat?
Yeah, like
it'll
real
be
animals. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be like something to say, hey, I can afford to eat real meat.
Saying wrong is like, was it wrong to continue a tradition for the sake of a tradition?
I don't think there's actually going to be much of a conflict. I think it'll just naturally move in a direction, and like the people who do want to fight for real meat, like they can keep eating it, and it'll be more expensive as time goes on.
Yeah,
and it'll just be.
But you don't think it'll bother a lot of people though that why are we killing these animals just for people to eat when we we need to? Isn't that horrible? Is it? I mean,
people.
We live in that world today.
Have you been on the internet? Like tons of people see that all the time.
But the thing is, there's no good alternatives now, and now that I'm just saying, it'll be. I think it'll be the next. It'll be the next civil rights movement, animal rights. Like I think it's going to be a thing.
But we got to take our civil rights first.
Kane had his hand up, and Kane and Oracle had their hands up for a while too. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but they're sitting in the back, so.
I have something to say.
Oh, there's no love for the back.
Go ahead.
Okay, I will say it. This is somewhat off topic to the question, but can we have more endgames in this school environment? Because this is extremely fun. This is probably the longest that I have ever been in an endgame, because the environment is so
cozy,
so fun.
What is it that you appreciate? Does it make you feel young again, or what's going on?
Yes.
Well, the school environment, it's kind of reminding me of 10 years ago, and it's funny looking outside in the window what's going on. So. Yes. This is an excellent
dinosaur with a chicken leg attached outside my window too.
A level ground with you guys.
Don't you remember that? Riding a dinosaur.
Yeah,
with a chicken leg.
we were talking about this too. As maybe
when the llama was playing ball outside, like that was pretty awesome.
Oh, I missed that.
Good. Kane.
Good.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to say. I didn't mean to hop out of my seat. One of the things Nikola Tesla said in his life was that he wanted to separate between the have and the have-nots. In other words, the people in the first world where they had everything, and the people in the third world, developing countries, who literally had, 2 stones to rub, and that was it. And, I kind of feel that this lab-grown meat would be something that could separate between the have and the have-nots. Where the third world has food opportunities that we have always had. Like, I as cliche and as dumb as it may sound, I would love to see some developing country where it's just a bunch of tribesmen have the opportunity to have a hamburger like the rest of us. And, not saying that, the hamburger would bring peace to the third world,
Don't underestimate the
but
burger.
I think that, it would really help with a lot of these countries if food was cheap and readily available.
North Korea.
Yeah, hunger is a
Yeah,
huge
right.
problem worldwide
North
in
Korea
in
especially.
developing countries. So, yeah, it will. I think it will definitely participate in that.
I'm so much more excited about the technology that seems like it is going to help. Like, it's not just about helping the elite. Like, when we were talking about a head transplant, I don't think poor people are going to get head transplants, man. I think it's going to be rich billionaires. And they're going to live for fucking ever. And so, like, that's going to be a problem. We have to figure out, who's this guy?
I'm just messing around.
That's
I'm just checking out your school, man. This is awesome, man. Hey, what's up, everybody?
Are you supposed to be somewhere? Do you know what's on your schedule?
Do you have
What class
a
do you have right now?
for school? Yeah, I'm late for school. And I'm doing.
Let me see your syllabus.
I'm gonna walk around, man. But this is awesome, man.
I'm really, I hope that lab meat is one of those things that it is going to sort of, like, we can debate whether it's morally wrong to eat animals, blah, 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 blah. What really matters is that people get fucking food and like, we're able to, like, help everybody. Like that, and hopefully that's around the corner. I don't actually know enough about it. I wonder,
It'll be good.
is it going to be a pretty premium thing, or, maybe more research?
I don't think so. I think it'll be. I mean, we'll see. I don't know.
We should start heading towards the end.
Yeah, we've got so much to talk about. I don't think we're gonna get to all of it.
I think it's okay to
head transplant.
Yeah, we're cool. We dig into stuff. We don't just fucking list 6 things and then move on.
Yeah,
that's good.
But I got a bedtime, you know.
Yeah, me too.
I've already passed mine.
All right, so we're coming to the time where someone has to digest all of this into a beautiful nugget, where they can express like a conclusive statement that will end the show.
I'm sure that cloned meat would make a lovely nugget.
There's
There's your final thought.
Meat nuggets.
You're welcome.
Let's keep going.
Pathetic food for thought.
I like nuggets.
Food for thought. Get it?
Kona?
Yeah, just to interject on what Rejing says, I actually grew up on a farm, slaughtered animals, so on. I do believe it's more acceptable because animals eat other animals. It's not a problem. I do believe that lab-grown meat is going to be the main frame. And I do believe that, actual grown meat is not going to go away. I do not believe it. And I do believe it's going to be a luxury. It's going to be basically kind of like, like I love bison meat. That's a luxury item. It's $10 a pound, and you don't get it very often. I think almost all actual grown meat, when it comes from animals, is going to be the same way as it is with, bison meat. It's going to be a, per person served thing. You actually have to want it. Like you don't. Normally, you're probably going to go and go get the lab grown meat. It's not much different. It's the same thing. It's just not coming from an animal. Like other than the fact that it's coming from animal cells.
My favorite meat is otter. I love otter meat.
I've never eaten otter before. I've had bear though, and horse, and a lot of
it's
other
so
things.
tiny and cute and delicious.
I'll eat anything. I mean, if it's meat, I'll try it. I'm just saying.
It's the best.
I mean, I'm right there with you. I love trying different foods and even for different animals. It's just it's a struggle, And if if the meat thing like becomes a what do you call it, a luxury item, like I would definitely prefer that to the situation we have now. But I think the point is that as our society develops, as our species develops, we're finding out ways to change biology, our own, and the biologies of animals and bacteria, which we didn't talk about. But we're spreading out and we're developing in all directions, and biology is one of them. And I'm excited to see where it goes.
There's this insane thing called CRISPR. We'll do a whole show about that. I think that deserves its own episode.
I could probably get from the National Institutes of Health. I could find someone to come on to VR chat.
That sounds like a great idea.
That'd
be awesome.
That would be great.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
All right, and no one else has a good nugget, a conclusive statement.
Any other nuggets?
We're all going to have a fun laugh and really appreciate, and then we can get out of
I
here.
watched the Nate comic.
Grown nuggets.
That's it. We're just going on the chicken nugget thing.
Yeah,
Everybody loves a good nugget.
The Nate nugget.
Oh, I missed that.
Did you guys see me dancing
Wow.
outside?
Wait, I wasn't holding my
Yeah,
Bible.
it was beautiful.
I was just throwing it out.
What if chicken nuggets started coming in multiple different types of meat? What if chicken nuggets became steak and hamburgers and everything just in one little package?
Steak nuggets.
Steak nuggets.
Willie
Alright,
wants
I'm there.
shit. Yeah.
Will we always continue to try to emulate like animal meats though?
Oh, you know we will.
Yes.
Like seriously,
But you
we're-
have to
we're a
genetically
predator
modify
species.
meat to be different. That'd be interesting.
Oh my god.
We could try to create hybrid meats and
Hybrid meats that taste better.
or like entirely new types of meat that have never been.
Yeah,
or
what if we keep
genetically
making it taste
engineer like
better and
new
better?
meat inventions
Not even the same.
and like
wonder
they'll just.
Imagine this.
Duck nuggets would taste like.
Imagine one of those open world games where like you go hunting or whatever, and there's like all these. Like what was that? Whatever. Like there's a lot of games like that. You go hunt like crazy animals. Like you find a Pikachu and you hunt it down. Whoop. And then your computer prints out the Pikachu, meat, and you get to eat it. And like each Pokemon has its own unique flavor.
Oh, that would be
That's a pretty cool outcome.
That's an $1 billion idea.
That is
I would definitely have to catch them all.
If meat was lab grown, how long would it take before we stop associating meat with actual animals? Probably within a generation, kids would be like, "What? Meat once came from animals?" They'll just see it as something that comes out of a can or a container. They won't even.
I mean, it might be like the whole floppy disk for a save icon. It just lives on regardless of generation.
We're halfway there already. Kids already think most food comes out of wrappers.
Yeah, exactly.
Like M&M?
Rapper, sorry.
Oh, the lab grown meat. We can have M&M.
Wow, that was pretty good actually.
So there's a lot of great possibilities. We hit
That sounds
everything, right? Was
awful.
there something we were? Oh, is there anything you guys want to say in conclusion? You feeling good?
I said
Yeah,
my
I'm feeling
thing.
good.
I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Psych.
I'm also really tired for bed.
All right,
I've been-
thank you.
We're all just sleepy. All
It is 11.
All right,
It's
thank you
currently
everybody for
11:39, and I
coming.
have to get back up at 4.
That's the end of the end game. Do I have a clever saying
right.
to finish this out yet? And
No, we
that's
need one.
the end game. No.
Checkmate.
And that's
And
checkmate.
So this is gonna be
Bye,
on YouTube?
everybody.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
We've got a YouTube channel. Look us up.
Night, guys.
Awesome.
Oh, we gotta do a photo, everybody. Wait.
Yeah, let's do a
Everybody,
photo.
shut up.
Everyone
We gotta do a photo.
Wait,
Should we go outside or should we do it in the classroom?
No,
Everyone take a seat.
So we're just all gonna sit down?
Yeah.
Yeah. So next to each other. All right.
We're students
Ghoster, tell us what to do.
Students forever. Yeah.
Oh, too, we don't have like graduation caps.
Can we go
I'm
in?
doing Nixon. Sucking Nixon.
All right, thank you, Ghoster.
Awesome, guys. Good
great.
discussion. This is interesting.
Good show, guys. Good show.
You should totally start
Yes. I'll
closing
show
the
you
show
out
with
here.
Rick and Morty references.
Where are
Like,
you
that's how the
from?
news goes.
And that's how the news
From
goes.
Hawaii.
So,
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
tell me if you see
Yeah.
it.
We never have more end games in this classroom.
Yeah, 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, we had one of
Such
the
a good
earliest
place.
questions in our classroom, and it turned out
I can't do anything.
If anybody has some quick worlds they want to share, almost all the end games, this is the first.